Alright. It looks like we are about to be ready. As soon as these guys are ready to kick off this race, then we're gonna get it on the road. Hope everyone's doing alright tonight. Hopefully Starlight's game feed comes back up. How's everyone doing tonight? I hope great. I'm doing pretty good myself, was just doing a little bit of practice earlier. Even though I got knocked out of the tournament the other day, I am chillin'. Alright, it looks like we're about to kick this off as soon as Dev readies up. Alright, we're about to kick it off. Here we go. As soon as the stream delay catches up. Ooh, Starlight's timer started. I don't know what's going on. Alright, DevvGameZ started and Starlight's off. There we go. For real this time. Alright, so how is everyone doing tonight? I'm Rhombus. Looks like I'm going to be doing this commentary solo. As the runners move into the first room here, just gonna say a quick few words about this game. The objective of this game is to collect 40 boos and a bunch of portrait ghosts and make your way to King Boo at the end of the game. This is the no out of bounds category, which means we do not use the out of bounds glitch at the end of Area 1, which allows you to clip and go straight to the end of the game without collecting the aforementioned 40 boos. So you're going to see these runners go through the entire game just collecting the bare minimum required to beat the game as intended. And if you are familiar with this game, you might notice a couple things that are weird, like how the map doesn't actually come up when you collect a key. That's because we use a glitch that basically just disables the Y button completely. And the Y button is what brings up the map usually. So that just saves like a little bit less than a second for every key that's collected throughout the run. DevvGameZ missing a double, the very first double of the game. That's really unfortunate. You always hate having that happen in a race. Oh, and Starlight missing the second double, so both these runners are actually going to be flip-flopping a little bit at the beginning of this race. Dev pulling a little bit ahead after those missed doubles. The wardrobe room going pretty well for both runners. This room is kind of tricky to get those doubles. The green trash can ghosts actually have a hitbox that allows you to just push them around, so we kind of abuse that to line them up for a double. Alright, so now we're going to be moving on to the very first portrait ghost of the game, Neville. Or Nigel, as some people have called him in the past. Pretty easy. All you gotta do is not look at him until he shows his heart. Each portrait ghost in this game has a different quirk about them, which is basically what will cause them to show their heart. Most portrait ghosts have completely different ones to each other. This first one, obviously, you just look away until he shows it on basically a little timer. Lydia here, this next portrait ghost, will get cold when you open the window, and that's when she shows her heart. So basically, we just try and get them to show their heart as fast as we possibly can for each room. Sometimes there's a couple factors that are more or less out of our control that will cause us to lose a little bit of time. We'll see that in Area 2. And now we're going to be moving up to the boss of Area 1, which is Chauncey. The first potential for some major mistakes, but I think both of these runners are pretty well practiced. It's one of the very first things you'll learn when speedrunning this game. Both runners having a little bit of trouble waking up Chauncey with that rocking horse and grabbing the ball, but overall nothing too tragic. So the Chauncey fight is broken up into a couple different stages. Basically, he'll throw the rocking horses at you, and then he'll throw some giant bouncy balls at you. And that's the phase where you can grab them and hit Chauncey with them in order to get him to show his heart. So what you're going to see these runners do is run all the way to the right and then all the way to the left. That's to get these rocking horses to move forward as quickly as possible, because they will only move once you are in front of them. Dev getting a good catch on the first ball. A little bit of lag on Starlight's end, but hopefully that comes back soon. Now you're going to see Dev take a little bit of intentional damage from this rocking horse, and then knock on the wall to extend the invincibility, which will allow him to stand completely in the way of one of the balls and catch it, which hopefully he'll get here. He did, absolutely no problem. And that is Chauncey done for one runner, and we're going to see Starlight attempt the same thing. Ooh, moving back a little late there, I think, causing the ball to bounce early and not be able to catch it. Not the biggest time loss, but still something that kind of sucks when you're running this game. It does not feel good. So coming out of Area 1, we've got Dev with a pretty decent lead, but anything can really change. Area 2 especially has a lot of areas where things can go wrong. Specifically, we're going to start to see our first instances of RNG, especially in the ballroom coming up. There's something that's completely luck-based that could just lose either runner 10 seconds, and it's completely out of their control. So hopefully we don't see that happen to either of them. We're going to see some grabber ghosts in this next room that Dev is about to enter. you're going to see Dev get intentionally grabbed by one in order to line them up for a double faster. Pretty much any time these guys are in a room and there's more than one of them, you're going to be seeing the runners getting intentionally grabbed to line them up for doubles. Hopefully Starlight gets it as well. It's one of the easier doubles in the game, but people have missed it. I know I certainly have. Alright, so we're going to see some Shy Guys in this next room. They kind of have a weird hitbox, and they come in these pairs, and they dance together. You have to suck their mask off of their face first before you can stun them. So you're going to see the runners do their best to get both of them off at the same time and then line them up in order to get the doubles. DevGameZ getting all three of them very nicely. Hopefully Starlight does the same. Ooh. DevGameZ getting early release. That's the RNG element that I was talking about. That can happen just 10 seconds later based completely on luck. But also on Starlight's end, we saw one missed double. A pretty decent recovery. Managed to guide the Shy Guy over to the last double, so they didn't have to go too far to find it. You're going to see DevGameZ stick his vacuum through the wall here. There's a poster in this room that's loaded in despite the wall not being moved yet. And when you stick your vacuum through and tilt it up a little bit, you can just pull it off, no problem. And that basically just allows you to multitask. Pull that off while you're waiting for a ghost to spawn, so you don't have to do it after you press this button. It's just a small optimization. It's really just something that you can implement basically for free. It's super easy for anyone to do. No real precise setups or lineups needed. And it just saves a little bit of time. So totally worth doing, even at a completely beginner-level speedrun. Both runners getting the double in this storage room. That double's actually deceptively difficult because of the way the ghosts spawn, and the fact that they move in very different ways. It can be a little tricky to line them up to get that double. Excuse me. So what you just saw was Dev hit the button to release all of the boos into the mansion. Those are the boos that we're going to be collecting throughout the game. Like I said, you need 40 of them to beat the game, but there's also an intermediate milestone, a couple intermediate milestones. You need 5 in order to progress into the mirror room, and you need 20 in order to fight Boolossus around the middle of the run. So we're going to see there's some heavy RNG elements with these boos. There's a lot of different areas where they can spawn in each of these rooms. And a big part of the speedrun is knowing where they can spawn and doing your best to find them as fast as possible. You're going to see Dev go for a trick here. It seems like the boo has moved, and he didn't realize it. Or at least the decoy may have moved into the chest at the bottom right. So what happened there with him pulling off the tablecloth halfway is he was trying to set up for a text skip, where if you suck up a boo and then immediately suck up a cloth or any other kind of object that you can pull into your vacuum like that, if you do that immediately after catching a boo, it completely skips the text box of EGAD that comes up. Neither of them able to get that, though, because the boo was under the tablecloth, and sometimes there's just nothing you can do about that. But overall, despite that, some pretty decent RNG from both runners. Finding the boos in the other rooms so far in not the worst places. There's a couple things you can do, specifically in the wardrobe room. There's a way you can read the radar as you're walking into the room to be able to identify where either the boo or the decoy is. Starlight did read it properly, but unfortunately found the decoy and then had to open almost everything, or actually it had to open everything else in the room in order to find the actual Boo. That's just the kind of thing that can happen with the luck in this game, and sometimes you just gotta deal with it. So now that Dev has gotten 5 Boos, Egad's gonna tell Luigi that he should go wash his face off, and that's basically the game trying to usher you into going into the first floor washroom in order to find a Toad who you can save the game on, but we won't do that because it's slow and we don't need to save unless we're save warping, and I'll get to that later. But instead we just open this toilet, and there's a key in there that Toad apparently dropped in there. I don't know why he didn't just fish it out, it's huge, and it also just pops out on its own like a spring. So Toad's really just upset for no reason, so we're just gonna leave him in there. And now, what I mentioned about save warping, we're about to see at the end of this room that Dev is making his way into. We're also going to see some interesting ghosts. They're invisible, but you can see them in the mirror, so that allows you to find them even though you can't see them. Though, when you're a speedrunner, you basically just learn the places where they spawn, and you don't even really need to look. So basically what we're going to see is the runners are going to try and grab the Boo and the fire medallion at the same time in order to save with the Boo's text box and then reset the game, and that basically skips 2 things. It skips the long text box that happens when you pick up the fire medallion, and it skips the need to get fire and light the candles in this room in order to get out of it. Dev getting it pretty flawlessly, the Boo giving him a little bit of a weird position. You need to be careful because your vacuum will lock onto the medallion, and you can pick it up before catching the Boo, which is just a massive time loss. So now we're just going to see Dev grab some fire and go back into this fortune teller room in order to light these candles. You don't have to light the ones in the mirror room, but you do have to light these ones because it allows you to get a key that you need to progress the game. Hopefully Starlight's going to be able to get the same save warp. Boo giving him a little bit of trouble, almost escaping. A little scary there. But it looks like he may have got it. Yes, he did get it. Both of them getting the save warp, so we won't see any candles being lit in the mirror room today. So next what we're going to see is Dev clearing a room that is technically optional to complete, but since we have to wait for the butler to make his way into the butler's storage room below this one, we just clear this room out anyway, because it allows us to get the Boo in it, and we need 40 of those anyway. So if we didn't clear this room, we'd have to find one somewhere else anyway. So we might as well do it while we're waiting for something else to happen. And we're gonna hopefully see... Ooh, the hat flying past him there. If you grab that hat while that chest spawns at the right timing, you can actually skip the camera panning over and looking at the chest, which allows you to get into this room a little faster. And you could hear the butler was really screaming for a while there. If he had gotten the tech skip, he would have been able to start sucking up the butler before, or at least right when he showed his heart instead of a little bit after. The Boo giving him a little bit of trouble trying to find it. And we're going to see him, almost get hit by the purple mushroom. Twice almost getting hit by the purple mushroom. You really don't want to get hit by those. If you get hit by a purple mushroom, Luigi turns small and basically can't do anything. Except call for Mario. So it literally just loses like 10 to 15 seconds. There's no benefit to it. And that time we actually saw Dev got a text skip there. On the Japanese version only, you can suck up the boo and go into a mouse hole at the same time, and it will skip Egad's text box. He missed it on the way in because of the purple mushroom, but on the way out he managed to get it. And I kind of glossed over it because I was talking about something else, but this room, the hidden room, is also completely optional, but we clear it in order to get a boo, which ends up being faster than the alternative, which would be getting a boo in the basement later on with 300 HP, which is just a lot slower than coming in here and getting this one, especially with the text skip involved. So Melody here has 2 different songs she can play, and they're virtually the same, except the one that we're listening to right now from Dev is, you lose a slight amount of time to menuing, but they're basically the same. It's just a little tidbit there. There's only 2 songs she can play. And then she asks you a little bit of trivia, but the options she gives you are always in the same order, so even if we don't know how to read Japanese, we can still figure out which one we need to hit. Finding the boo in the piano is pretty good. Pretty much the second best RNG you can get in this room. This is one of the roughest rooms for RNG because the boo can be in any one of these instruments or in the cabinet on the far right. And it just becomes one that's really, really hard to identify for a beginner. Neither of these runners are beginners, though, so hopefully they'll find a decent... They'll be decent at finding the boo, even if it's in kind of a hard spot. Ooh, that's really unfortunate. Getting punched by the ghost there, Dev is going to have to wait for it to respawn, which is really unfortunate. Just losing an absolute massive amount of time to having to wait for that to respawn, especially because it seemed to have decided to respawn on the left side. So we actually had to move over a little bit to get it to spawn. Oh, and here we see on Starlight's end just the absolute wreck that this room can cause. Just with all of these objects congested together, it's really hard to read the radar and figure out where the ghost is. Plus, it's just a really wide room, so having the boo all the way over on the left like we just saw, even if you find it in a decent amount of time, it's just a time loss, and at that point there's really nothing you can do about it other than find it as fast as you can. So here we're going to see one of my favorite strats in the run. The ghost... there's a ghost in this boneyard that will spawn and complain about loud barking as soon as this dog ghost... Spooky is his name. As soon as he barks 4 times, he'll spawn. But getting bit by the dog and shaking him off actually counts as one of those 4. So what we do is we make him bark 3 times, and then get intentionally bit in order to line him up in the perfect spot. Ooh, very clean double there in this graveyard from Dev. That double is really fun, at least to me. You stun the first skeleton ghost and wait for the other one to line up for a double. Previously, and I mean years ago, I've been in this community forever, we used to use the water on that first ghost, and it was less consistent because, for one, you had to wait for him to stop being covered in water in order to stun both of them. And if you stun him once with the water and the other skeleton didn't line up for the double in time, you couldn't go for it. But with the stun strat, you could basically keep him frozen there for as long as you need. Dev getting really ripped around by Bogmire there and dropping him. Kind of common in lower level speedrunners, but you see it less in the higher levels. But even still, you still do see it quite a bit, because Bogmire really just will yank you around this field. He will just really drag you around that field, and there are ways you can mitigate it using the C-stick or by doing some different movement, but those movements do run the risk of losing you time to a slower suck-up. So hopefully we're going to see Starlight get a 1 cycle here. Looks like they're using the C-stick a little bit safer, but it pays off getting the 1 cycle. It is slightly slower than just using the control stick, but if you're not confident in just using the control stick, it's really worth using the C-stick, because dropping Bogmire once or even twice just absolutely loses tons of time. And those time saves, if you're not a top level runner, those time saves are just really worth it. You know, when speedrun strats offer you the opportunity to do something easier and save 10 seconds, why not take it, right? So Dev is going to move on to Area 3 now. Personally, I find Area 3 a little bit easier than Area 2, at least consistency-wise. But it is still one of the hardest parts of the game, and a lot of people consider it to be the hardest area. Along with Area 4, which gets even more difficult in my mind. Really, this game's just tough, except for Area 1, if I'm being honest. Maybe not tough in the ways that speedrunners are typically used to seeing, you know, with high-level movement and cool tricks, but it really just, with this game, I've lost my train of thought. What I'm trying to say is, this game is hard in unconventional ways. So a little small time saver thing that I haven't really mentioned in any of my commentaries before. We just saw Starlight do it, and we saw Dev do it earlier. If you hold out an element while going down a ladder, you can actually just fall all the way down to the bottom of the ladder without having to climb down. So that's, again, it's just free time save that even the most beginner of runners should really be implementing. Another thing that we've seen runners doing throughout the run... Ooh. Missing the suck up on that, but not too bad. At least the ghost didn't despawn. Another thing that we've seen runners doing a lot that I haven't mentioned is when walking from a light room into a dark room, Luigi will take out his flashlight. And that animation causes Luigi to stop moving for a second. And that loses a little bit of time. But if we time it right, and use an element when walking into a dark room from a light room, at just the right time, it'll skip that animation, and you can just start walking immediately. Oh, Starlight giving Biff a good whack. Completely unnecessary for the no out of bounds speedrun. Or the any percent no out of bounds speedrun, I should say. But I guess Starlight's got some beef with Biff. Now, Petunia is a bit of a deceptively difficult ghost. Really, honestly, super easy to suck up. And this room's really small, and Like, she can't really drag you all over the place, but sometimes she'll just break off for seemingly no reason. So, it's always... You always just want to be a little on edge and make sure you're not taking things too easy. So Nana's room is another one where there's some really harsh RNG that can happen. Hopefully, it's not looking like... Yeah, Dev's going to have to run all the way over to the right side of the room because the boo was not in the table or the thing on the left. I actually don't even know what it is. I've always called it a sewing machine, but I'm not sure if that's correct. It's just another one of those instances where sometimes the game just wants you to lose time. Ooh. Getting bonked in that hallway... Usually getting bonked isn't too big of a deal as long as it doesn't cause Luigi to get scared. Ooh, Dev missing a candle there and not realizing it for a second, losing a little bit of time. But anyway, like I was saying, getting bonked usually doesn't matter that much, as long as it doesn't cause Luigi to get scared and freeze in place for a second. But in that hallway, it can actually lose you a little bit of time, because you need to suck up the fire from the candle on the wall, and getting bonked causes Luigi to point his vacuum down at the ground. Dev choosing not to go for the triple in this room. There is a cool triple you can do in this room. Not sure if it's faster. I think the last time I had a discussion about it, it was generally agreed that it's actually a little bit slower, but I think it looks cool, so I do it anyway. Starlight also getting pretty nasty RNG in Nana's room. Really nothing you can do about that except try and find the boo as fast as possible. So now we're at Moonshot. Anyone who's played this game probably knows how absolutely stupid this part of the game is. You have to hit the moon with one of these comets or shooting stars or whatever that fall out of the sky. And the lineup, which Dev gets after a little bit of a slow setup, but sometimes you really want to make sure you got it. The lineup really doesn't make any sense. Sometimes it feels like you're aiming perfectly at it, and it just goes off in the middle of nowhere. Oh, and I've been DM'd. Apparently I've won a giveaway on Discord. I'm gonna go ahead and not respond to that. Remember, kids, if you get a DM from a random account saying you won a giveaway, it's probably a scam. So anyway, Starlight also not going for the triple, getting through Astro Hall without too much trouble, and hopefully going to see them get the Moonshot as good as Dev did it, if not better. So Dev is now going to move into the projector room, where we're going to see some more invisible grabber ghosts and some more cool double and a triple strat. That may seem tough, but once you get the lineups, they're actually not too bad. So these first two ghosts are just singles, then we're going to see two of them spawn. Dev's going to get grabbed by one of them. Like I mentioned earlier, pretty much any time you see these guys, you're getting grabbed by them to line them up. But when it looks like Starlight missed Moonshot, oh, going for the 360. Oh, missing it again. I didn't see if he went for the 360 the first time, but you always love to see the 360. Unfortunately, not going for it and still missing it. That's what I'm talking about, where sometimes it just looks like you have it lined up, and for some reason it goes nowhere close to where you thought you were aiming. Finally getting it after 3 missed attempts. That is unfortunate. Ooh! That was really close to... Dev was really close to missing that glove. Wouldn't really have lost too much time. You can just mirror warp in the room next to it. And he also got the text skip. I didn't even realize. You get a text box picking up the glove, and he actually managed to skip it with that save warp, so saving a little bit of time twofold on that. Basically, you can grab that glove right after sucking up the boo. You have like 1 frame, I think it is, to move right after you've sucked up the boo before EGAD starts talking to you. And if you grab the glove in that frame, it actually skips the text box that comes up while Luigi holds up the glove. Saves a little bit of time. Really inconsistent, but really impressive to see Dev get that in a race. So I go over this every time, but in case there's anybody here who still isn't familiar with this game, or has not watched this game before, the twins in this room will hide in these boxes. And basically, the game presents it as if it's completely random which boxes they're in, and as a casual player, you might think, oh my god, this is awful. I have to just keep leaving and re-entering this room until I just randomly happen to find the twins in these boxes. It's actually not the case. You can use either your vacuum or your element on the boxes, and if they shake, then the twin is in them, and that's 100% guaranteed. So it's actually not... It is luck-based which boxes they can be in, but it is not luck-based how to find them. Ooh, and that boo just darting out of the twins' room. Fortunately, this hallway is lit up, so it won't lose too much time, but losing that boo into the hallway is still frustrating. Starlight also got the save warp on the glove, but did not get the text skip. Ooh. So, interesting play from DevvGameZ there. Saw the mushroom spawn, and rather than risk getting hit by it, decided to go out into the hallway to wait for the boo to follow him out. I think that was a pretty good play, honestly. And we saw another tech skip there. That was one of the first tech skips, I believe, that was found in Lydia's room there. And that one is actually a really important tech skip because that room is super laggy, and combined with the fact that EGAD can start to give you longer text boxes, if you get lag plus the longest text box, you just lose loads of time. So getting that text skip is really important and potentially saves you a good 15 seconds of headache and mashing. So now we're at pretty much the most boring part of the game on Dev's side. You basically just have to mash for about 1 minute and 20 seconds, I think, on the Japanese version, and like 1 minute and 40 on the English version. Just mashing through these text boxes, giving each of Mario's items to the fortune teller while she tells you information about Mario and the mansion that we as speedrunners already know because we've played this game way more than the developers ever intended you to. Starlight getting a pretty good boo find in the twins' room. Finding it in the first place he checked. That's always fun to see. So as soon as he's done mashing through these text boxes, we can suck up the fortune teller and move on to the area boss of Area 3, which is Boolossus, at least after one more room and one more boo. Or I should say 2 more, because he still has not gotten the one in this round. And apologies if my voice starts to slip. Solo commentary is a little difficult. God forbid this run was any longer than an hour, right? So we're going to see Starlight go for the tech skip and get it pretty clean. And we're going to have to watch Starlight do some mashing. Dev almost forgetting to grab ice. A rookie mistake, potentially, but just remembering to grab it at the last second there. Missing ice is really not something you want to do, because especially if you don't realize it, you run all the way up to the safari room and realize you don't have it, and you have to run all the way back. And there's no shortcut back there. You just have to walk. The safari room is a pretty fun room. It's pretty satisfying. These ghosts spawn with water covering their heart. But if you hit them with ice while they're spawning, you can skip the animation of freezing the watered down heart. And you also saw the trash can ghosts that I mentioned earlier have a hitbox that allows you to push them. You can do the same thing in this room and push him and get one of the doubles with those other ghosts. Ooh, getting bonked by the boo, almost losing him into the hallway. That could have been pretty tragic, but just barely managing to get it. Ooh, and getting Van Gogh text. Like I said, eGuide can start to give you these longer text boxes when you pick up a boo. And there's, I think, 3 longer text boxes besides the normal length one. And that one that he just got was called Van Gogh text, where he gives you some information about Van Gogh, who is a boss we'll see later on. And it's really long. And we hate to see it. It's just time lost. There's no benefit to it. Now we're seeing Dev go into Boolossus. One of the coolest bosses in this game. You're going to see him do some specific movement to get Boolossus to pop himself on the horns of these statues. And then he's going to grab ice, and you're going to see him walk backwards all the way across the stage with his vacuum out, and that is to get all of these little boos that just spawned to line up together, and then he's going to shoot a ball of ice at them and hopefully freeze as many of them as he possibly can. And we're hopefully going to get them all in one cycle here. Not the best shot. They're scattered all over the place. This is looking a little rough. Just barely managing to get them before Boolossus put himself back together. So that was a 1 cycle from DevvGameZ, almost losing it at the last second there. And just like that, we are done with Area 3. And we're moving on to the final area of the game, which I believe is also the longest area of the game. If it's not, then it's probably tied with Area 3. Just about. Ooh, Starlight having a little bit of trouble in Safari Room, having to freeze the trash can ghost to prevent him from despawning in order to get that double, but managing to make it work, and not losing too much time while doing it. Now don't let your eyes be deceived, despite the fact that Dev is a solid minute, 2 minutes, maybe a little more than 2 minutes ahead. Area 4 is a cruel mistress, and anything could really happen, so we will still have to see. So hopefully we're going to get to see Starlight pull off a 1 cycle, maybe even better than DevvGameZ, because Dev's was a little bit sloppy. through no fault of his own, I may add. Those boos just really did not seem to want to line up in the right area. Meanwhile, while Starlight does that, we're going to see Dev making his way up to the balcony where he just fought Boolossus to start Area 4 by opening the door and also triggering the blackout, which after that we'll have to go all the way back down, and then we'll have to go all the way back up again, and basically Area 4 is a lot of walking up and down stairs, is what I'm trying to say here. Alright, so let's see if Starlight can get this one cycle. When people do it well, it really looks easy. But I assure you, it is not easy. There we go. Firing one shot, getting a good amount of them, but not all of them. Managing to recover quite a few of them. Ooh, and I think, yes, he did get all but one of them, which means Boolossus is not going to put himself back together, and this will be a one cycle, even if it is a little slow, because this last boo does not seem to want to cooperate. Wow, I thought he had him there. The boo must have flown out of bounds and unfrozen itself. Very, very rough one cycle, but still a one cycle. So on Dev's side, we just saw the blackout start, and basically what the blackout entails is all of the lights in the mansion turn off and a whole bunch of ghosts spawn in every room. And it makes it really difficult and really scary for anyone who's not played the game before, especially if you're a kid playing the game. But we move using sidestep in a specific way to prevent pretty much any ghosts from spawning. Until we get to Grimly here, who can show his heart whenever he wants. And that was pretty fast. Not the fastest that can happen. He can show his heart as soon as you walk in that door. But he can also wait and show his heart. I think the longest we've seen is about 47 seconds after entering the room, and there's just nothing you can do about that. It's completely luck-based. And it's, if any of you are familiar with Mario Sunshine, it's sort of along the lines of getting extra cycles on King Boo. It's just, you just can't really do anything about it, and you just lose time. So we're going to see Dev turn the lights back on and end the nightmare of the blackout. And I don't know if he goes for Breaker Boo. We will see here. Not going for Breaker Boo, which I'm not surprised by. It's a very high-level strat that holds a lot of risk. Dev choosing not to go for the double in this room, which is perfectly fine. It only saves maybe 2 or 3 seconds. And it is safer not to try and go for the double, because going for it can sometimes mean that you actually despawn one of the ghosts and have to wait for it to respawn, which ends up losing time. Oh, so after one more Van Gogh text here, the long text that I have mentioned before, we're going to see Dev do what I said he was going to do before, and walk all the way back up to the roof. We're going to be seeing this a couple times. Our speedrun route basically does its best to minimize the amount of times that we have to walk up and down these stairs. And we're seeing Starlight now in the blackout. Hopefully not going to spawn any ghosts using the same movement that Dev did earlier, and hopefully getting Grimly to spawn his heart in a decently short amount of time. Ooh, spawning one ghost, two ghosts, getting scared, losing a little bit of time. Not the end of the world, but definitely avoidable. Not getting an instant Grimly. Come on, Grim. Alright, that wasn't too bad. A little slow, but it can be much worse. So here we see the toy soldiers. One of the most interesting portrait ghosts. It's actually 3 portrait ghosts in one. All of them have 100 HP. As a kid, this room is just an absolute nightmare. These guys are all over you, hitting you with their court guns. Looks like Dev is trying to line up for a double. Gets the double. Hopefully isn't going to drop either of them. Ooh. A little rough on the suck-ups, but did not drop them. 2 purple mushrooms spawning, somehow not getting hit by either of them. That was an absolutely wild toy soldiers. That was one of the most interesting toy soldier rooms I've ever seen. Now this is interesting. Dev actually going for the sextuplet suck-up on the Shy Guys. We don't see that very often. Usually we'll see runners just burn all of them to death instead of sucking them up. And that was really clean the way he did that. Completely damageless as well. So for anyone that doesn't know, that strat that Dev did is actually a very, very classic strat that we used to do because we thought it was faster, but it turns out it's actually fastest to just burn them all. And it's also way easier, so we just do that now. But for a little bit of swag, we saw Dev go for it, and I think that's really cool. Oh, and Dev, oh no, exiting the room instead of knocking on the armor. This is gonna be a little bit awkward. Still making it work. And I think we're gonna see him go for a triple setup here by burning some of these ghosts to keep them in place. And then hopefully getting it. Sucking up all 3 of them at the same time, just to save time overdoing them individually. And here we're going to see the first of 2 boos in this run that have 150 HP. And having 150 HP as a boo is special in this game because of something that we call cackles. Basically, each boo will cackle up to 15 times. And we can reset that cackle, and I'm getting a little sidetracked. I should not be explaining this while he's sucking up the boo. That was very impressive, and I'll explain why now, as I was trying to before. The boo can cackle 15 times before he will start to run away and not hold still for you at all. Every time the boo cackles, he will stand still for a short amount of time, and that's how we've been seeing with each runner has been holding the boos in place with something we call R-pumping, where you hold R and L together and let go of R and press it again to make the boo cackle and hold them in place. Okay, now that I've explained that, each boo can cackle up to 15 times, I've been over this, before they run away, which means when the boo has 150 HP, you have to really maximize the space between each of those cackles, because as soon as those 15 are up, they're going to run away from you. So if they get what's called a double cackle, which can happen sometimes, where you start sucking them up and they make that cackle noise twice, It uses up 2 of them, and then the Boo will start to run away from you before you suck him up all the way, making the Boos with 150 HP the hardest to one-cycle in the whole game. So now we're going to see Dev move into Weston's cold storage room. Weston himself is pretty tricky to suck up. He has a really weird pull rate. Oh, getting frozen. That's unfortunate. He has a weird pull rate plus the icy floor makes him really hard to one-cycle, especially for newer runners. Ooh, and getting bonked by, I think that was the icicle there. Really unfortunate. But anyway, he pulls you all along this icy floor and can make it really tough to one-cycle. And on top of that, look what's about to spawn, if that actually was the Boo in that barrel. Another Boo with 150 HP, except this time he's on ice, making him even harder than the one in Armory Room for a lot of people. Oh, and getting a double cackle right at the end there, and that's exactly what I was talking about. You get one of those double cackles, and suddenly the Boo is running away from you. So losing this Boo at 10 HP, gonna have to chase him back into a lit room in order to finish sucking him up. This game has a mechanic where basically you can only suck up Boos when they're in a lit room. So if a Boo runs out into an unlit hallway like that, you have to chase them back into a lit room. So now we're going to see Starlight go for Armory Boo. R-pumping looking a little weird. Not sure if this one cycle's gonna work. Yeah, it looks like he got a double cackle in there, so the Boo just really ran away early, and he's also going to have to chase this Boo back into Armory Room. Thankfully, going back into Armory Room, he can go off to the right, which is an unlit room, and that just ends up losing time because you have to chase him out of that room, and sometimes you can go back into the hallway, which is still unlit, and then you have to chase him back into another room, and it's just a mess. So now, we're seeing Dev move into Van Gore's room, who is the last portrait ghost of the entire run. And what's going to happen is he's going to have to get a triple of every one of these ghosts that we see on these paintings in a row. He doesn't have to get the triples, but if he wants to save the most amount of time possible, he has to get all of them in one suck-up each. And some of them are much harder than others. Like, this first one is pretty easy. Their hitboxes are generous, and they spawn in a nice little pattern. These guys are a little bit tougher because their hitboxes are a little weirder, and generally it just starts to get weird. Like, with these grabber ghosts that are about to spawn after this triple, their hitboxes are weirdly small, so it's kind of tricky to line them up. And we're gonna see, ooh, Dev trying to move away to get them a little closer together and still not managing to get them all in one. The Shy Guy triple posing no issue. And we're going to see these trash can ghosts, and finally the 0 HP ceiling ghosts, which Dev is just going to burn with fire, and then suck up Van Gore. So after Van Gore, we have one more Boo that we have to catch. It is the biggest HP Boo in this entire run, with 300 HP, which means it's impossible to one-cycle. Especially because he's extremely fast, and there's just no possible way to hold him in the room for the entirety of the 300 HP. So what we're going to hopefully see is Dev get down below 150 in the first cycle, and then in the second cycle, get him all the way down to 0. That's the best you can hope for with this Boo, is getting him in 2 cycles. But sometimes It can go to 3 or sometimes even 4. Ooh, and this is looking a little rough. The Boo just running right out into the hallway. Dev, in frustration, sucking up those pearls that caused him to lock on and lose the Boo. Meanwhile, Starlight on a difficult Boo of their own in Weston's room, getting a ton of double cackles, it looks like, and the Boo running away at 50 HP. Just really posing an issue in Weston's room for both runners. One of the hardest rooms in the game for sure. And now, we're going to see Dev move into the final boss of the game, King Boo. Now, King Boo has a number of different ways you can attempt to do it. What I expect to see here is for Dev to go for the 2 cycle. So, King Boo has 500 HP, and it's possible to get just over 250 of that HP off in 1 cycle, with an exception, and I'll explain that later. So basically, what the runners will try to do is get over 200 HP off in the first cycle, then in the second cycle, finish him off. What is different, though, is semi-recently, a strat was found that is extremely difficult that actually allows you to do King Boo in a single cycle. And I don't know if we're going to get to see that today, but definitely check out some high level races. You might get to see that later on in this tournament. And I think we may have already seen it quite a few times in some earlier races as well. So, bar some extremely unforeseen circumstances, which I think at this point would basically be if Dev were to game over, which is not unheard of, so I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. But basically, unless Dev game overs here, it seems like he's going to be the winner of this race, but Starlight putting up a pretty good fight, all things considered. I'm pretty sure Starlight's PB was 5, if not 6 seconds behind Dev's. Or seconds, minutes behind Dev's. So it would have been a massive upset to see him win. So definitely a good effort put in by Starlight here. Ooh, Dev dropping King Boo for a second there, and he gets away at over 300 HP. So we're going to see Dev have to go for a 3 cycle here, because it is not possible to get 300 HP off unless you do the 1 cycle strat. So what you're going to see here is Dev is actually going to intentionally drop King Boo over 200 HP, even though he could get more off. And the reason we see him do that is because once King Boo gets under 200 HP, Bowser will start to put his head back on backwards. Oh, and the 360! He missed the 360! Oh, that's a shame. Props to Dev for going for the 360 swag. Unfortunate. But basically, Bowser will start to put his head on backwards and then run around aimlessly, and it just loses a bunch of time. So if you can't get him in 2 cycles, it's best to just keep him above 200 HP. And then just finish him off right now for a 101.47. Dev is today's race victor, and I believe we'll move on to the next round of the loser bracket to face off against GC. So GG to DevGame, and we're going to hopefully see Starlight finish this off nice and strong. So, if either of these runners, once they're done, wants to join in here and do a quick interview, then we will do that. But until then, we're going to see Starlight now moving on into King Boo for either a 104 or a 105, most likely.
Hello!
And here we have DevGame. How are you feeling?
What a run! I mean, what just happened?
There was
I went for some craziness. I had a little Pablo in my head telling me to do some stuff. Like, yeah, I don't know what that was.
There was some weird stuff going on there. I appreciate the gusto for going for the 360 in Bowser.
Oh yeah, I went for it.
It seemed like you didn't quite commit to it.
I did. I was like gonna do it, and then I said nah. And then when I decided, it was too late. I already saw that I wouldn't be able to make it. Yeah, I didn't commit to it. I was like, it'd be funny. Nah, but I'll do it. And then yeah, it was too late.
It was funny.
I will say though, the soldier doubles, that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that was.
I don't know what was
wild.
Yeah, I don't know what was. Felt like a rodeo bull on them.
That was certainly the most exciting part of that run, I think.
Yeah, and then the poison mushroom. Oh my goodness, that mushroom that came out in nursery. It came right from my head. I just walked out on that, Boo. I said, you come to me, Boo. I ain't having it.
That was a good play. Choosing to go out into the hallway there. I mean,
yeah,
way better than getting hit.
Poison mushroom's like 10 seconds, and then like, what if that Boo goes up?
Like, yeah, it's
I mean, it doesn't matter. I still get it, but yeah, I mean, yeah, 10 to 8, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you get hit while trying to suck up a Boo, then like, who knows where the Boo's gonna go while you're tiny.
Yeah.
So.
All in all, though, that was fun. The Boolossus was close.
Yeah, both of you actually had really close. Boo losses is very, very close one cycle.
I know I got early release. Did he get early release?
You know what? That's my bad. I don't think I remember. I don't know if I was paying attention.
Yeah, it sucks. I like seeing both of us getting it.
Fortunately, the race wasn't close enough for that to matter. That would really be a shame to see someone in this tournament miss early release and for that to be the deciding factor. So it looks like Starlight, same thing happening, dropping over 300 HP, probably going to, I don't know why I say probably, definitely going to go for the...
I don't know if I dropped an input on the R pumps or what, but the King Boo did get away on me.
Yeah. So it's looking like Starlight is going to end up with a mid to high 105, and then we'll hopefully get them in here to...
I thought about going for Breaker.
Yeah, I was saying I wasn't sure if we were going to see it.
I thought about it. I should have.
That would have been pretty hype. I
would have been exciting, especially if I got it, because that would have been like first run I made it that far to actually get it.
And getting it,
shoot,
showing up, Dev.
He's better. He's better.
All right, we've determined the true winner of this race.
Style points. Man, that's another thing. I remember talking about points. The kitchen, the fridge ghost. It bullied me.
Absolutely socked you in the face.
Dude, I fired it, and then I don't know where my flashlight beam went. I guess I missed it. Yeah, it hit me right in the face, and I said, well, that's not good.
All right, well, Starlight has finished off with a 105.42. Not too far off from PB, I don't think. Within a minute, I believe. So a pretty decent run. So hopefully we're going to see Starlight join us here before we head off for tonight. Let me do a quick link send to Starlight. If I can find them. This is the wrong room. Do you happen to know what Starlight's Discord is?
Somewhere here.
Oh, there he is.
You found it. I'm looking for
Send him a quick message. There we go. So now that invite has been sent, hopefully they will join up as soon as possible. But until then, do you have anything else you want to say about your run?
I had fun. That was pretty good. I got pulled off a lot of stuff. I think I showed off pretty well.
Hello, Starlight.
Hello.
How are you feeling about that run?
Pretty good. I was only 39 seconds off PB, so that is like a way better run that I've been doing for the past.
Yeah, being within a minute of PB is certainly respectable. I mean, going up against Dev, I mean, you were already at a deficit in terms of PB.
Yeah.
So it's really hard when a tournament match is against someone who just has a much better time to begin with. But I don't think I would be too upset about that run.
Not at all. Not at all.
Um,
it was a fun race. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had fun. That was a good run.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
I wanted to mention that Bulasis because both of you actually had very, very close.
It was by the skin of my teeth.
cycles. Like, I'm pretty sure both of you got the second to last boo while the little cloud was starting to form already.
Mm-hmm.
And then that last boo just really giving you a tough time.
That boo was just like, oh well, I'm just gonna mess you up just because like it got flung out of bounds. And I'm just like, it's gonna be one of those fights, isn't it?
All right. Well, if you have anything left you want to say, go ahead. Anything else?
Dev, I wish you luck for
You too. Good game.
Well, I mean, I'm out, but
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, I wish you luck too, though. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
And
good luck on getting a
Good
PB.
luck
set,
on
because
grinding
you
that PB.
You definitely have a chance for it.
Heck yeah, yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for racing.
All right. So with that said, I think there is another race in this tournament going on right now on SpeedGaming 3, I believe. If any of you guys in chat want to go check that out next. Other than that, that'll be the last race for tonight. And then tomorrow we have 2 races, one at 7 EST and one at 9 EST. So be sure to come around for those. And I will think, unless you guys have anything else to say, I think we're good to sign off.
Nah, I'm good. Everyone
good
have a great
too.
night.
All right, everyone have
Same
a great
here.
night and have a great day.